3 important people when you retire early. These are people that are important because when we retire early, one of the biggest failures that we could do as an early retiree, or as a retiree, would be to go back to work. And so these 3 people make it least likely that you might have to go back to work. The first type of person that should be one of the most important people to you when you retire, I take from Joe Kuhn, with an addendum. Joe Kuhn is here on YouTube. It's Kuhn. He retired using stocks. I retired using real estate. But we both made work optional in our early 50s. For me, after about a decade of investing, because I didn't start thinking about money until I was 40. So like everyone else, I wish I started sooner. But Joe talks about retire to something, not from something, right? Have a plan for what you're going to do when you retire. My addendum, my fourth corollary to my Kuhnism is, who are you retiring to? None of these 3 people I'm going to say are your spouse. Your spouse should be the most important person before you retire and after you retire. So they don't need to mention. But when you retire, not everybody retires at the same time as their spouse. My friend Frank is working hard to make sure that Cynthia can retire, and he plans on still working. So who will Cynthia be retiring to? When you retire or retire early, you need to think of the people that you're going to retire to. Now, if you're like me and you're not a people person, you can retire to YouTube, so you talk to a camera all day, and play World of Warcraft, so you're looking at a screen all day and not be around people, because bleh. But there are people who like rock climbing. Find your rock climbing people. I like to scuba. It'd be great to have more people around here that scuba, although I tend to travel when I do that, because in the Pacific Northwest in the summer, this is the weather we get. I hope it falls on a weekend this year. Find the people you are going to spend time with in retirement who make your retirement worth spending. What if you're into old cars? What if you're into the sports ball? Find your thing. Find the people that are into that thing and make those the people you are retiring to. The second type of people that make our retirement more likely to succeed are the people who make our retirement likely to succeed. There are many ways to reach financial freedom, and I always talk about there is no right way, but there is a one right way for you. Like I said, Joe Kuhn chose stocks. If I owned a stock or had a penny in a retirement account, I'd probably still be working. I chose real estate. Joe doesn't want to own rentals. I totally get it. It's not for everybody. But then there's some people who don't want stocks and don't want rentals, so they start and grow a business with the goal of getting the business large enough to where someone else runs the day-to-day. Kind of like the last decade of working, I was at a CDL school. I was demoted all the way down to the president of the company so the owners could live in another state and not have to be there. Brilliant move on their part. If you start and grow a business, to do that, you need to find the people who are going to run it. That's your retirement people. If you are going to grow a business and scale it, I highly recommend you getting a business consultant. Now, we used Andrew Ballard, and we're in Pacific Northwest. The Ballard Group was amazing. They do things that you might not think about if you're starting and growing a business. An example is, do you have a mission statement? 25 words or less that actually define every question, everything your employees want to do. If it matches the mission statement, they can do it, giving them freedom to grow, freedom to push the envelope with your business. They can do things that you might not think about, like grow your HR department. Is that what you do? Are you growing a business, or do you want to work in HR? Well, a business consulting agency can help you do those things because it's on repeat for them. Find the people who've done what you want to do and have them do it. Find a consulting agency who's done this for several successful businesses, has a track record and good recommendations, and use their services. If you invest in stocks, now I'm not a stock guy, so the advice you're going to get is secondhand through what I learned from watching Joe Kuhn. I watch him for his retirement stuff, but he invested in stocks and he used the buckets method, and he highly recommends, so I would recommend the same, that you use a financial advisor. And don't use one that earns a percentage, because that, like somebody running your retirement accounts who makes money whether you do or not, can add up to hundreds of thousands of dollars over decades. You want a flat fee financial advisor a fiduciary, somebody who has an actual requirement to speak in your best interest and isn't going to just pitch you on their product. I personally have had a lot of problems with financial advisors because when I was getting out of the Marine Corps, there was a bunch of financial advisors who made money by finding other financial advisors because they wanted access to veterans, and a veteran was the way to do that. Probably why I have a bad taste in my mouth whenever I think of financial advisors. But I don't invest in stocks, and if I did, even though I have a negative opinion of them, I would hire one. If you invest in real estate, I'm going to cheat because this was my bread and butter for making work optional. And I wanted to make sure that I didn't have to do that ultimate failure of a retiree, which is everyone else's average day to day, having to go to work. The first one, and this might be for business and stocks too, but for real estate, since real estate, the incentive to get into real estate was the tax benefits, your tax person, your tax pro, don't use a software. As soon as I had a rental, I hired a tax pro because there are multiple forms of depreciation that I don't even want to have to take the time to learn. So we hire a pro, not just for filing our taxes, but for telling us our tax strategies. Is a cost segregation study good for you? Is it a time to buy? Is it a time to make financial decisions based on the tax outcomes, right? We don't let the tax tail wag the dog, but there are times that we can choose. I'm going to do this anyway. Should I do it now or should I wait till the end of fiscal? Your tax planner can help you with that. So that's the first one. So like I said, I'm going to cheat with real estate because there's a second one. For me, I self-manage my 18 rentals. It takes me about 2 hours a month. So you can tell me I'm not retired all you want. It takes me 2 hours a month to make a couple $100,000 a year. It's really rough. I don't want a job. I am an investor, not an entrepreneur. I did not invest to run my property. So the most important people to me are my handymen, right? I use the Thumbtack app. I go on Thumbtack. I find contractors and handymen, hire them for small things, see how their interactions were with the tenants, see what their specialties are, build a list of people I can call. So if I ever do get that call after 8 o'clock, which I've had one in a decade, I do have people I can reach out to. So I have my 24-hour-a-day plumbing services, 7 days a week, electricians, and my specialty handyman for when I have a tenant turnover or something like that, so that I can sleep like a baby or travel all over the world and do all the scuba diving that I want to without having to worry about my properties because I have got a team of handymen in place. Now, if you invest at a distance or you don't have the people skills, you'd have a property manager. They might be more important to you than your handyman because they'll have their own. The third type of people, and to me, this one, I haven't heard too many people talk about. When we want to retire, we start watching content on who how did people retire? When we want to invest in real estate, we start watching content on who invested in real estate. We go to local meetups. If you want to invest in stocks, you start watching or reading content about stocks. If you want to start and grow a business, you really get detailed into knowing your business, right? My family does residential tree services. So if you talk to my brothers, they are an encyclopedia of wood knowledge on trees that I don't care to know. So I joined the Marine Corps. It's easier work. But you become specialized in your thing. So you go to the content source for what you're doing, whether it's business, stocks, real estate, retirement, whatever you're trying to do. When you retire, the people who will make it most likely that you continue to stay retired is finding that group of people who have done it, who have possibly used a strategy close or similar to yours. For me, people say you become the average of the 5 people you spend most time around, right? Well, I twisted it to you become the average of the 5 channels you watch the most. So what are you watching? If you can find the people, now for me, it was the one rental at a time community. I found the Michael Zubers, the lumberjack landlords, the millennial Mikes. These are people who invested in what I invested in, making work optional so that they can retire and do what they want with their time. If you are going to invest for 10, 20, 30 years, whatever it takes for you to reach financial freedom and make work optional, it's really important that you find people who are also in the same situation, because remember, you are retiring. In some cases, your spouse isn't. Your friends aren't retiring. Your family isn't retiring. If you're lucky, your parents might be retired. But they're still going to have a 40 to 60 hour work week. Most of the people that you've been interacting with for the last decades. Now you can, like me, with total time freedom, I find people like Millennial Mike, who is working towards financial freedom. He's got a couple of years to go, but he's off on certain days of the week. My son is off on Tuesdays and Wednesdays, so I plan my schedule around doing things with people who have certain days off. But imagine if you had that group of friends who weren't tied down, selling their life 1 hour at a time, trapped the way you were, who you can make plans for, who you can say things like, let's have an event in Chicago in September. Let's just plan it and we'll all be there. No one cares about dates. No one cares about travel times. No one cares about the cost. Because one of the things we did with financial freedom was made money. I know you don't like this. Made money not matter. Because when you don't have enough, money is the only thing. And once you have enough, money is just a thing. It's just a thing that lets us do what we want. 3 important people when you retire early. This is a nice short live stream that I'm doing on my phone where I won't answer any of the chat. I saw that there was some. If you want your questions answered live during a session every Tuesday at 4 p.m. Pacific, I do a couple-hour live stream where I answer all of the questions on reaching financial freedom, making work optional, sometimes investing in real estate, but there are other ways to do it. I know that my way is definitely not the way for most people. It worked for me because I had a short. I wanted to do it in a decade, and I wasn't making a lot of money. Most years I made less than $50,000. So stocks and investment accounts and retirement accounts, and I'm not an entrepreneur. I'm way too lazy to run a business. Tried it a couple times and failed. So I found the lazy way to do it. If you want to know the lazy way to make work optional, I will see you in a Tuesday live stream. Have a day full of awesome.